everybody. Glad to be here. Loving our blue planet. It had to do with the theme, which was affirming faith in a sustainable future. That was what you folks had for us to consider. And I think we turn to a sustainable future. We want a sustainable future because of the beauty we have seen in our world. Right now we're having a little drought, and it's not quite as luscious, but I thought I might start by asking people, and now might not be the best time, but we can do it, to remember the most beautiful natural or even partnership kind of a thing that you have seen in your life. If I give my example, it's going to be the garden, one of the many gardens that the DuPont family has created. And this is Winter Tour, a museum garden in Delaware. And I still remember it as the most, luscious, colorful, beautiful garden. So I don't know, does anybody else have one that comes to mind if I say, you want to come on up and tell us?
17 years ago, I'm hiking down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon with my 17-year-old son.
Wow. Anybody else been, has anybody been to the Grand Canyon? I don't know about hiking down to the bottom. Nope, that's a unique one maybe. Anybody else? Meredith, please.
Yes, climbing Mount Fuji in Japan. We climbed and we arrived at daybreak, and it was phenomenal.
Thank you. Has any, Shazam has one.
I have my own mic.
Okay, good.
So this is in the hills of Wisconsin, and I had gone to the top of this hill to see the scenery all around the hill, and I was like, uh-oh, the sun is setting, and I'm like, I'm up at the top of this hill, so I start running down the hill and jumping over rocks and stuff, and then there's these big outcroppings of rocks that are like, the rocks are 10 feet tall, and I came around this rock, and there was thousands of fireflies, and it was just like when you come over a mountain and you see a city, but it was fireflies. It was the coolest thing I've seen in my life.
Wow, that's amazing. Whoops, Marilyn has one. Yes.
So when I was married, we did a lot of camping, and we did some camping on the back side of the Sierras. Has anybody been to the east side of the Sierra Mountains? So on the west side, it's a gradual roll. There's rolling hills, and then it gets a little steeper, a little steeper, a little steeper. On the east side, no such gradual. It just goes straight down into the desert. And we were camping there, and one of the things we saw was kangaroo rats. Has anybody ever seen a kangaroo rat? They look like miniature kangaroos, only they're the size of little squirrels or rats. And they hop on their hind legs across your campsite. It's really cute. But at night, the other thing that's amazing is Mono Lake. That feels like a moonscape when you're at Mono Lake, and there's all these limestone accretion things that rise up like you're in a cave or something. But at night, millions and billions of stars come out. And we had the luck to be there when an astronomy club was holding forth. And they had set up all their power scopes. And they let little old us look at deep space objects through the telescopes. And we just got to see, wasn't quite Hubble, but it was on the way, it was between what you can see with your naked eye and what you see in the Hubble pictures. Just close-ups on the galaxies and all that, like cosmic dust and different things in different shapes and the rings of Saturn and things like that.
Okay, thank you. Oh, one more.
Watching Kilauea erupt and flow into the ocean.
Wow, that sounds amazing. So, is there anybody on Zoom who would like to share? Is anybody waving madly? Nope. Turn on the sound. The sound is on, so we don't see no. Anyway, it seems that everyone on Zoom is complete as they are. Okay. David, would you like to share the most beautiful thing you've ever seen in nature? Make sure you unmute yourself. Okay. Okay. Okay, then I think we're good. So for me, remembering the most beautiful thing we've seen, or remembering the beauty of nature, is a motivator to do things to help sustain life on our planet, to remember all the different things we might want to do. Nature is such a mysterious power. Emily Dickinson has a poem called "Nature is What We See." And she says, nature is what we see: the hill, the afternoon, squirrel, eclipse, the bumblebee. Nay, nature is heaven. Nature is what we hear: the bobolink, the sea, thunder, the cricket. Nay, nature is harmony. Nature is what we know. Nature, yet have no art to say, so impotent our wisdom is to her simplicity. So just remembering the beauty that we have seen, the mystery of nature, I think opens our heart to want to do something to help sustain life on our planet. For the past several hundred years maybe, humanity has been more focused on success and prosperity, not so much on the care of the earth. Now we have air and water pollution, global warming, and increasing evidence of climate change, including our current drought. So it's time for us to turn our attention to the care and loving of our own earth. To affirm faith in a sustainable future, for me, means committing to make it happen, to make life-affirming choices that will bring it about. Each of us could choose one new behavior that contributes. Here are some examples. To reduce the carbon emissions and fight global warming. I don't know if you ever connected any of these things with doing that, but eating less meat and enjoying locally grown produce so that nobody has to drive miles and miles and miles in a diesel truck to bring us our vegetables. We can drive the car less and ride the bicycle more. So I want to reduce my use of plastics. I've been through this before, but I'm turning back to it again. You know, did you know that recycling plastic really doesn't help? It used to be that China bought our recycled plastic and made furniture out of it that was sold. But they stopped doing that years ago. So all those nice little plastic tubs of yogurt and cottage cheese and who knows what all else, they all wind up in the ocean or in landfills. There isn't really, even when they collect it all, they don't have anything to do with it at the present time. So I want to take a look at my use of plastic and see if I can make other choices. I know So I know I can buy milk in glass bottles. I just have to remember to do that. I can make my own yogurt. So I'm going to get rid of one appliance that I don't use hardly ever. Marilyn will be so happy. And, and get a yogurt maker with glass cups. So I'm going to start to look at that. How can I reduce the plastic that I buy in the store? The other thing you can do is to plant a tree or trees. Alameda County has an urban forestry program, and one of the programs, parts of it, is it promotes landscape planting, including trees, along country designated roadways. So you can contribute to that. The U.S. Forest Service takes donations to plant trees for a small donation. This little doggy wants to say hello. For a small donation also, the nonprofit carbonfund.org will plant trees. For $10, they plant 10 trees. So they grow the seedlings and then plant them. So there was another question I wanted to ask. I don't know if anyone has an answer. What are you doing differently out of a desire to counter global warming and climate change? Has anybody started to do something differently or started to do something new? Okay, how about if we look on Zoom? Has anybody on Zoom chosen to do something differently? Let's wait a minute till the sound gets switched over. Does it look like anyone is? Nancy, would you like to tell us what you're doing?
Yes, and I want to speak in honor of a realtor friend of mine who passed on a while ago, Pat Colburn. Years ago, she began to name herself the Green Realtor. And she'd go around and say, you have to bring your own utensils. You can't use those plastic things, and bring your own carry home leftovers things. So finally, it's penetrated enough that I've actually put a couple of containers in my car, and I've even occasionally gone out to my car to get them instead of using the container at the restaurant. It's a very tiny step, but there's some old phrase about just take the first step. And also Amos White, who's a local Alamedan and very active in the community, he's part of it. I think it's 100,000 trees or something. So I've helped plant trees at Cruzy, and then I was shoveling mulch over at Franklin Park. So there are a lot of opportunities locally to do that. And if any of you want to get in touch with Amos and some of his projects, including, he'll put the word out for the blood drive, please let me know and I'll put you in touch, because there are many people locally who are doing a lot of activities that are the impetus to move us forward in caring for our planet. And thank you, Aikya, for all that you do, and the rest of you.
Thank you, Nancy. That's good to know about Amos White. I had, some of these organizations that will plant trees, they'll plant them. But one time I did have an opportunity to help plant a tree, and I'd love to be able to do that again. So anybody else on Zoom? No? Okay. Barbara, please let us know what you've done differently. Barbara.
Well, I have been, particularly since the pandemic, I've been really conscious of trying to make a lot of things happen with one trip around Alameda, not running out to do one thing and then coming back and then maybe 3 hours later run and do something else. I've really made a big effort to congregate all of the things I needed to do and get it done with one outing.
Thank you. That's a great idea. Under the heading of Drive Less. Anybody else on Zoom? Blanca, please let us know what you've been doing. You might have to unmute.
There we go. I'm doing the same thing as Barbara is. I'm doing one trip, put all my errands in one day, and I map them that I don't have to redo them. So it's a good idea, Barbara. Keep it up. That's it.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Blanca. Okay. Anyone else on Zoom? That seems to be it. Okay, thank you so much. Very good ideas. So, and you can also belong to nonprofit groups and join in whatever they're doing. I found one that I get a kick out of this because I'm older than old. There's one called 1,000 Grandmothers Bay Area, and they're older women activists working on climate change. That's their sole focus. And 350 Bay Area for Oakland and Alameda, they are building a grassroots climate movement in the Bay Area and beyond to eliminate carbon pollution. And Alameda County Interfaith Climate Action Network is another one. I guess Home of Truth would be the member of that. So, and our government is working with industry now, and hopefully will continue to do so in the future, since this is not a quick change, to decarbonize, industry. So especially the cement, chemicals, and steel industries, which are the worst contributors of carbon dioxide to our air and our environment. So that is ongoing. But I think it's good for each of us to pick something that we want to do. You know, as people say, oh, with just one person, what's the difference? But it's a consciousness thing, you know? If you have that consciousness in mind, that you want to show your love for our blue planet, and on purpose do something to reduce the carbon emissions, that is a good idea. So I would encourage everybody to do something to enhance life on Earth. And prayer is another thing. So here's a little prayer I found. Here it is. Maybe I'll say a little bit and then you can repeat it if you want. Lord, grant us the wisdom. Lord, grant us the wisdom to care for the earth and till it. To care for the earth and till it. Help us to act now. Help us to act now for the good of future generations. For the good of future generations and all your creatures. And all your creatures. Help us to become instruments. Help us to become instruments of a new creation. Founded on the covenant of your love. Founded on the covenant of your love. Is that something you might want to put in the newsletter so other people could say it? Okay, I'll give it to you. So I thank you for the opportunity to talk and to hear all the wonderful things you are doing. It's been my pleasure to be here with you. Thank you so much.